слышны в саду даже шорохи. Все здесь замерло до утра. Если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера, если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера.
There's no use talking. Russia's winning a place for itself in the eyes and respect of the world again by its ambitious and modern industrial progress. And now, President Roosevelt's written to President Kalinin of Russia, suggesting a conference out of which...
1930. The second year of the Great Depression was underway, and 12 years had now passed since the bestial murders of the Romanovs. Most of the world was ready to move on and look at the Soviet Union with new interest. Since its formation, the new Soviet government was in need of income. In 1920, it had granted exclusive purchasing rights for its caviar to the Frenchman Émile Prunier in Paris. But with the ensuing economic boom that preceded the Great Depression, it was happy to enter into negotiation with several merchants who were wooing the Soviets for their precious eggs. As a result, a number of new trading companies were set up, and some are still operating in the caviar business today. Only 50 years earlier, the world had possessed abundant sources of various sturgeons, and there had been copious caviar production, notably in Germany and North America. Sturgeon roe produced outside the Caspian Sea shared a position equal to that of peanuts and other drink enhancers. As a result, overfishing of the European and North American sturgeon had reduced those regions' live stocks to virtually zero. Russian caviar was now the only caviar available on the world market. The food of the great Tsars was becoming internationally fashionable. Film stars, artists, writers, and composers had become passionate caviar aficionados, like David Niven, the debonair actor and novelist. He made no secrets about his love for women, champagne, and caviar. Only the order in which he placed them he was not so sure about. The legendary Marilyn Monroe pronounced caviar as her very favourite of all foods. She and the actor and singer Yves Montand were sometimes seen dining intimately at the Prunier restaurant in Paris, where they were served just oysters, champagne, and caviar. The controversial and explosive writer Ernest Hemingway promised the mysteriously beautiful Marlene Dietrich a caviar and champagne lunch if she agreed to let him interview her. The USSR had been able to sign a treaty with Iran, in which the Soviets were granted exclusive fishing and production rights for the Iranian side of the Caspian Sea. That was about to change. In 1952, the Shah of Iran, determined to give his country a more modern image, decided to commercialize Iranian caviar. This despite long-time rumours that he himself was allergic to caviar. The Shah was well aware that the Soviets had been exporting large quantities of caviar produced in Iranian waters to the West, labelled as Russian. Now Iran wanted its share of this prestigious cake. As a result, the 30-year-old treaty was not renewed. The Soviets' near half-century monopoly of caviar was over. And just as Tsar Nicholas had done 60 years earlier with Russian caviar, the Shah and his royal family now vigorously promoted Iranian caviar. Especially at the grand event in 1977, celebrating 2,500 years of the Persian Empire in Persepolis. It was later to be known as the most notable international social occasion of the 20th century. 600 royalty and heads of state participated. The menu was crowned with Iranian Imperial Ossetra caviar. This new quality caviar, only available from the Shah's personal appointees, was to reincarnate the spirit and atmosphere of Iran's ancient civilization, poets and philosophers. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, both Iran and the Soviet Union were producing more caviar than ever before, and not just to meet the increasing foreign demand. There was a voracious consumption of the delicacy within the USSR. Uncle Lenin's beluga was high on the wish list for obedient members of the Communist Party in a country with little diversity or colour in the government-run food stores. Caviar on one's dinner table in the USSR was an emblem of high Soviet achievement. Although they were competitors on the world caviar market, Iran and the Soviet Union had reached several understandings as to how their unique products were to be individually commercialized. But then came the Iranian Revolution in 1979. The entire Iranian caviar trade was put on hold for 4 months. The new Islamic government of Iran only decreed the continuation of caviar trading once it had assured itself that the commerce of Iranian caviar did not present a conflict with Islamic regulations. Iran cancelled all its caviar trading understandings with the Soviet government, and as a result, Iranian caviar exports to the world increased tenfold. By the end of 1980, the Iranian caviars were considered some of the very finest of all caviar available on the world culinary stage.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
(1989). Down came the Berlin Wall, and out came the truth about the global state of the Caspian Sea sturgeon. The 250-million-year-old fish, the protégé of the great Tsars, was slowly dying. Years of excessive fishing, industrial development on the banks of the Volga River, and drilling for oil in the Caspian Sea. All this had contributed to the steady destruction of this majestic creature. A new chapter in the story of the mighty Caspian Sea sturgeon and its caviar was about to begin.
Рассвет уже все заметнее, так, пожалуйста, будь добра, не забудь и ты эти летние подмосковные вечера. Слышны в саду даже шорохи, все здесь замерло до утра. Если б знали вы, как мне дороги подмосковные вечера, если б знали,